Okay, good. So yeah, so this is something we have touched upon before in your individual calls and also the calls where I introduced myself to you. Learning is quite central within the Resilient Roots initiative, and this means a couple of things. And for that, we have developed a learning mechanism that lays out the process through which we want to make sure you as pilot learns, but also the pilot projects in this initiative don't run separately from each other, but really interact with each other. And we also can get a learnings where others can tap into and learn from your experiences on doing something similar. So this is basically an overview on how learning will happen. It will look a bit confusing for now, but I'm going to move along the line of baseline, learning throughout, retrospective evaluation, and sustainability. So this is basically the timeline for the initiative itself. Baseline is the phase where we are in now. So you are going to set up your profiles, you are going to write your implementation plan, and something we have always mentioned before is that we want to make sure your efforts are not a single project, but they become sustainable in your organization. Then on the right side of this slide, you can see learning of pilots, peer learning, and learning from pilots. These describe the different levels of learning we want to achieve, so that you as pilots learn from the projects yourself, that you learn from each other, and we also have learnings for the wider civil society sector from your pilots. So let's go into the baseline. For the baseline, which is happening now, learning of you would be the resources and guidance you get from Lynn and Laurence, and also the comments in your implementation plan. So this is basically where learning happens for you in this phase. Then peer learning, we already had this webinar on primary constituents accountability, and also now this webinar on the learning mechanism is where you also interact a bit with each other and come together in one call and don't operate separate from each other. And also from this, we want to make sure we are distributing this a bit more widely than our little group. And we are going to write a blog post on primary constituents accountability. Plus, we are at the moment working on a blog post to introduce your pilot projects. And Jack and Belen and Selema will reach out to you soon about that. And after you have then started to revise your implementation plan, we can finally go into learning throughout the process of your pilot project. I'm going to go a bit more into detail here, what this means for you and what you should consider while you carry out your project in order to ensure learning. First of all, learning will happen in two different ways. This is also something we have noted in the implementation plans, is that you should consider the learning you get from the feedback you receive from your primary constituents. So they give you feedback on how to improve your work, but you should also consider learning about the effectiveness of the mechanism you apply. So is the survey you designed really useful to get the feedback, or was the workshop designed in the right way to allow your primary constituents to rate your work? And to go into a bit more detail what this means, you should always go through a cycle of action, reflection, learning, planning, and again, action, reflection, learning. So this is a cycle you can go through multiple times. What this means in concrete questions you should ask yourself is, in the action phase, what were the results of your PC engagement? So for example, the unprocessed results of your survey, the meeting workshop minutes you got from the workshop you held. Then you go into reflection phase. What was unexpected, expected about these results, what was confirmed, what caused these results, in order to learn what you can now do better about your work. So based on this feedback, what is going well in your projects and programs, what do you need to improve, and what new questions have emerged from what you learned through the survey or workshop or whatever you are going to do in your pilot project. And from these learnings, you can go in the planning phase. What are you actually going to change in your project or program now? And how do you close the feedback loop? So something you also have highlighted numerous times, that you should really consider how you are going to report back the changes you are going to make to your primary constituents. And then the next layer is learning about the usefulness of your primary constituents accountability mechanism. Here again, you have a cycle of action, reflection, learning, planning. Here are a bit of different, so these questions are just meant for you to ask yourself and to have a bit of a guidance when you reflect on what you are doing. So in the action phase, what significant parts of your accountability mechanism did you undertake? So you distribute maybe a survey, or you organized a community meeting. Who was involved and what did you do, to understand a bit of the setting of it. Then you go into reflection, what parts of your mechanism worked well, what didn't go well, and reflect on why this was the case. In the learning, you can ask yourself what you could do differently the next time using this mechanism, so doing a survey, doing the workshop, and what implication does that have for the next steps of your mechanism as well. So for example, if you do a survey and the answers are then going to be further explored in focus groups, you should ask yourself, okay, if there was something, if you didn't get so many meaningful results from your survey, how can you now go more in depth in your focus group, for example? In the planning, what are you going to change about this mechanism now? How will you make sure you won't repeat what did not work well or went wrong? When you go into the cycle, so it doesn't, of course, stop with the planning, and also throughout your pilot project, you should go through the cycle at least twice. So you should gather the feedback from your primary constituents, implement it, or implement parts of it, what's possible for you, and then test how this has changed the perception of your primary constituents. So now we go into the next layer of learning throughout, which would be the peer learning. And here we will have the online learning platform that some of you, or most of you, have already signed up to and used, which is Workplace. We are going to have the webinars. We are going to have something that is called lab storms. So for example, if one of you is going to face a really specific challenge that also maybe others are facing, we could organize a call where you have time to state the challenge, why this is the case, and the other pilots can help you to collectively brainstorm ideas how to overcome this challenge. And these are just different tools we offer. There is no clear plan when we are going to do what. This highly depends on what challenges you are facing, and also now going through the implementation plans, we are looking at where are there similarities in why you haven't been able to implement this before, or like where are similarities in the context you are working in, and based on that we are always looking out for where can we link you up, or where can we prompt you to address certain challenges. But also this of course depends on you, so you should reach out to us if there is a specific challenge that you are unable to overcome yourself, and you want to get further support with it, either through the consultations from Lynn and Laurence or through other pilots and maybe webinars or whatever might be useful for your specific case. So let's go into more details of the online learning platform. If you haven't been able to log in, please write me an email and I can figure that out. So the platform looks like this. So it basically looks quite similar to Facebook. So Workplace is an application by Facebook, but the difference is that the Resilient Roots team is owning the data and not Facebook. So this is more secure for you to share your experiences. We highly encourage you to make this really part of your daily work. I mean, this is of course up to you, but I hope that you would use this every day and log in and ask questions to other pilots and tell us about the progress you are making. So if you organize a workshop, for example, tell us what went well, what didn't went well, so the other pilots can learn from it. We have also started to share, for example, the blog post Jack and Kingsley have written on the link between accountability for greater resilience. I think this is also quite interesting for you to keep up with what we are publishing about the initiative. So we really want to make sure this becomes a vibrant online community where you can share what you are doing and what kind of problems you have. So here a few people have already started just to introduce themselves. That's also something I would like to ask from all of you to do, so everyone can know and maybe also get a bit more of a personal view behind the project. So it would also be nice if you upload a photo of you. I mean, this again, of course, up to the single person if you want to, but I think it's always nicer if you see a face to whom you're working with. And if there are any questions around how to navigate the platform, or if you have any problems navigating it, I'm also happy to write a tutorial about it. But since most people are familiar with Facebook, this should be quite straightforward. And then again, the next layer of learning throughout the project is the blog posts on progress, success, and challenges that have been solved. So we want to make sure that when you overcome a challenge through the support of the other pilots or through the support of the project team, that we capture that and that we make that available for a wider community to learn from your experience. And in order to distribute that, we will use a newsletter, social media, and we're probably also going to explore other formats. Then after your pilot has ended, we go into the phase of retrospective evaluation. In this phase, you are going to reflect on your lessons learned. In the peer learning, we are going to have an in-person learning workshop at the International Civil Society Week 2019, which is organized by Civicus. This is, of course, still a question of funding, who can really participate, but that's something we will get to at a later point again. But what we are planning here is really to have a workshop where we talk about the lessons we learned, the challenges we overcome, and also how are we going to make this sustainable now? What can we change in our organization? So this is not just a one-time exercise, but something that is a policy throughout all of our projects. In the third layer, we have learning from pilots, and we will develop case studies. This is, of course, something we also are going to develop in close cooperation with you. And if any one of you have any kind of problems being named, or even that this case study is distributed in the first place because it might be dangerous for you as an organization, then of course we won't do it. But yeah, we're really hoping to create as much learning material from your experience as possible for others. And then the last phase, we have the sustainability phase. So how to make your efforts sustainable, which means for you, continue to make primary constituents accountability part of your organization's work. And this is really where you have to navigate this yourself. In the peer learning, we hope that you still are going to be an active community of practice even after the project has ended. So we will probably still give you access to the learning platform so you can continue learning from each other, sharing your successes with each other. And we would also, of course, hope that you share with us, regardless, your progress and successes, challenges, so we can maybe further distribute them if there's an interesting case on how you made this sustainable. So now I have talked a lot. So I'm open to any kind of questions you have about this. If you have any kind of questions, what this means for you, or how the workplace platform works, or you couldn't get access, now is the time to ask for that.